Hello, gorgeous faces. It's so good to see you all here today. Okay, hold on. How do I pronounce your surname, Elise?
Sure, Arsenault.
Arsenault. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, we've got still people joining. Okay, everyone, I have a massive treat for you, and I've got a confession up front. So I'll do a little introduction, and then I'll hand it over to Elise. You might have heard me in all the rooms at APAC going, oh my God, I've already spent the first night sending emails apologizing to people for sticking my foot in my mouth. Well, Elise was the people, because I was trying to explain there's a thing about Elise. She generates excitement among people and she makes people feel like they can do anything. And you can see it. I mean, they're like evangelical after they go on her courses and after they talk to her, but most importantly, and scarily successful. So that's a good combination. But at APAC, you're kind of like a deer in the headlights, and there are a bunch of strangers there. And I said, oh, you've got like a total cult following. And somebody in the room went, cult following like that? I went, no. I mean, the people that follow her, like, they're like glassy eyed, like, and then I thought, oh, wait, that just sounded better in my head. And then Elise disappeared out of the room. And I thought, I've offended the guest. But of course, we've made up. She sent a very nice email going, no, it wasn't you. And I think it's a lesson to be learned when we're in social situations like that. It usually never is us. Everyone is only thinking about themselves in that. So everyone is the deer in the headlight, and there's no headlight. Okay, so I want to know first, I want to get to the audiobook adventure and all the exciting stuff, but I want to know what 10-year-old Elise was up to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 10-year-old Elise was playing Alice in Alice in Wonderland in my fifth grade school play.
Oh.
So 10 years old, I knew what I was going to do. By that age, I knew, and I had reached my first lead role. And that came
you had reached
seriously.
It like you'd been in other things and been like, I love the way you say that, like it was a hard fought battle, but you finally got
it was.
there.
And if anybody knows me, if you've worked with me, you know I'm a goal setter. I'm such a goal setter. So yeah, but it's interesting. I think I've had a journey of wanting something and then taking a few steps back and like, is that too selfish to want it? So I think I knew when I was 5 that I wanted to be an actor. And so I didn't get the roles I wanted in my second grade school play. So in fifth grade, I did. I'm actually in auditioning for Alice. I don't know if you want the whole story, but there is a story. Okay, great. So I was like, all right, I'm actually going to go for the Queen of Hearts because it's not the lead role, but it's a pretty big role. And that would be really juicy to play that role. So I'm going to go for the Queen of Hearts. And so I auditioned for the Queen of Hearts.
Was it because the role was really big, or because deep down you thought you might not get Alice?
Probably the second.
Here I'm analyzing your 10-year-old
Probably.
self. Yeah.
I can't remember now. It probably was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
Totally. And so I went to the audition, and then they called back like 7 10-year-old girls for Alice. And they were like, oh, do you want to come in for the callback? I know you said you wanted to be Queen of Hearts. And I was like, oh, I'll come in. And we had to like prepare a song and dance. And I did that. And yeah. And I got the role. And I remember being, okay, I'm just deciding how much I want to share and how much I don't want to share, because it depends on who's going to see this. I don't think the whole world, but there were some moments.
Yeah, but we're like closing in on 29,000 views. So it's not the whole world, but when you're deciding what to say and what not to say.
Amazing. Well, I will say the show was double cast, and the director's daughter was in cast 1 and I was in cast 2 and as Alice. So there was a little bit of like, oh, okay, I've made it, but I'm not the favored one.
Yeah, I was still gypped out of my rightful place.
Yeah, but I think that is that's part of my story, and that's part of what fuels me, and that's part of what makes me a coach today, is those moments of going for something, even if there's like a little bit of not 100% support all around me, and like breaking through and finding joy in that journey. Yeah.
Yeah, like the high of it. And also I would think that having that little tiny notch down being in the second cast
Yeah.
would spur you on even more.
Oh yeah. I was telling my parents, I'm one of 5 kids. So I have 4 brothers. And on one teacher's salary, my dad's was a band director growing up. And I was like, I need to get an agent, mom and dad. I need to start booking commercials right now. If I don't,
how old
it's
were
never
you
going
at
to
10?
happen. Yeah, if not a few years before, I was like, I know I was already thinking of like an expiration date.
And what place were you in the lineup of your brothers? Like, were you middle?
4th. I'm 4th. So I have 3 older brothers than me. And then my younger brother and I are just 20 months apart. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you've got a whole bunch of brothers with a lot of testosterone and competition, and you're
yes. And I
wanting
used to
keep
tell them
up.
my dreams and they would say, oh, you're never going to do it. Oh, you're never going to do it. And so there I was battling like, oh, I am, you watch me. So yeah, that don't rain on my parade thing was a big thing.
And you're never going to do it is a big thing as well, because that is a common theme amongst a lot of people. And it's how everyone has that story, some figure when they were young. But the thing is, when they've told you that, your brain is like forming,
Yes. And looking back now, I don't know that, I don't know how big it was. I don't know how many times someone said that. I don't know how intentional or how much of a joke it was meant to be.
Yeah.
But
it just takes one. It probably was meant in a very nice, funny. Yeah. And the people that say it, they were told that when they grew up as well.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Everyone's doing their best, but we've got to break out of it. Okay. So was it a straight path? Was it acting? Nothing's going to derail me
for me.
So where did you end up after school?
So I ended up in college. I actually went to college on a trombone scholarship. And I started in
wait.
Okay, don't skip that far ahead.
What is it? I hate to ask, what is a trombone scholarship? I mean, literally, you were so good they gave you money.
Yeah, I was number 1 in the state at trombone. Yeah. So actually, because I was daddy's little girl, and my dad, as I was saying, is a band director. And so Mr. Holland's Opus came out around this time. And I remember saying, like, my dad is like Mr. Holland. He really had such an impact on the community. And I learned a lot about that. I think looking today at the community we're building at the Global Actor, I think community has always been so important. And my dad did that in town with music, with the bands. And now even today he has a nonprofit string organization. The part of me that wanted to please my parents was like, okay, I still want to be an actor, but I'm going to go to school for music education first, because that feels like I'm being of service, and being an actor feels too selfish.
Yeah. And also, it's hard, isn't it, when you just get out of school and it's like, okay, be an actor. Aside from getting the training, it's hard to see that next step, whereas I'm going to start making money. And like, you kind of can't see, like, you're young. How am I going to like pay for and in America, it's a lot of student debt.
Yeah. I always had that hustle in me, though. There was that entrepreneur. If I look back, I was like in 10th grade, I believed I could do it. And so I had a whole list of BFA acting programs in 10th grade. And then the next year, I think I was like more practical. And so I was like, no, let's go for music education. But the moment I landed in college, I started auditioning right away for every school play, for every university play. Yeah. I took acting, and eventually I changed majors and created my own degree in theater and music, so I could take advantage of everything I'd already done. Yeah. It's so, again, that's formed what it wants. Yeah. And it's formed me because I went about certain things in like interesting directions and always resolved them in a way that worked for me. I think that's why, as a coach, I have so many strategies, because it wasn't always a clear shot. Right. I didn't get everything I wanted right away.
Right. But you didn't lose your determination.
But I never lost my determination. Yeah. Yeah.
So did you ever lose your way? Did you ever have a time in your life where you were like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm never going to make it. Or did you just keep
I'm never going to make it. Never. I've always had like a burning thing. Even right now, there are different times where I'm like, well, what's the goal this year? I'm actually in a moment of transition and inquiry right now. I'm always going to be an actor. I know that. But just like, what does the next year or 2 or 3 look like? So there were times when I think really in college was one of my first times realizing, you know what, I'm paying for school myself. I really have to do the thing that I want to do. At the end of the day, I'm the one here. It's my life. How do I really work this out? And so that was creating my own degree.
I love that you did that. I'm
Yeah.
I'm looking back at my college self, and I remember a lot of Kagers. So I'm really impressed. You were like straight on the path. This is my career. I have to make a sound life choice. Did you
Oh
have any,
yeah.
did you have any
Yeah.
moments where you like, so I mean, we all have something that we have to overcome, something that
Oh
we,
yeah. Yeah, there was something even during college. I did not get into a play that I auditioned for 4 semesters. So I auditioned for every single play that was either student directed or faculty directed 4 semesters in a row. And I was at the breaking point before I finally got into one, but it was competitive because it's a college program and I'm
yeah.
competing against seniors and very skilled people, but for whatever, it's not clicking. So I remember being in like a psychology 101 lecture class, and they had, I'm wondering what it's like today, because back then they would post the cast list on the door of like the
Yes.
the
Yeah.
lounge,
That's what it
right?
was like when I was
And
there.
so you would have to go and see with everybody, like, who got cast? Did I get
And
cast?
then
And you have to see your
slink
name
away.
with like 20 people. You have to go find out what your next few months of
And
your
if
life
you
are
get
going to
it, you
be.
have to kind of, you can't go woohoo because the girl that didn't get it
Exactly.
is standing right next to you and you feel
Totally.
bad.
You have to like leave the room and then go have your emotions.
So everyone's trying to
100%.
be like,
Yeah. So there was a production of the Three Witches, and I was like, okay, this is it. This is going to be the one, because I was just like, it's got to be. Eventually, it's going to break. And I didn't get it. And so then I went to my Psych 101 class and I had like was in this giant lecture hall. It wasn't really a place where you could have your emotions. But I remember like leaving in the middle of it, being like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, I've done everything I thought I could do. Like, this is the plan I had and it's not happening. And then the next play was Vital Signs by Jane Martin. And it's a beautiful play. And it's made up of monologues. And it's made up of like maybe 30 or 40 monologues. And the audition was going to be two monologues. So I was like, okay, I'm going through this play. I am finding the monologues that I'm going to do that no one else can do like me. And I'm going to memorize it. I'm going to be so off book. I'm going to really go for it. And this is something I did like my senior year in high school when I played Winifred and Once Upon a Mattress. I just like really went all in and let myself be like the fullest representation of me having fun as I possibly could. And
are you a studier? Do you do a lot of prep work before you do anything? Or do you just show up and
I definitely at the time I did a lot of prep. Absolutely. And so that's what it was like, being off book, knowing it so well that I was like, I have to do it, or at least I have to put it all out on the line, whether I get it or not. I need to feel like I've put it all out on the line.
Yeah.
And I did, and I booked it. That was my first show in college. And I got to perform those 2 monologues and 2 others. And it was just a transformational time. And so I feel like throughout my career, I've had those moments of like, oh, really going for it. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Like for me, one of my biggest challenges in my career was not getting into grad school, not getting into an MFA acting program, and taking a while to land at, that's not for me. And it's okay. What will I do at this next, what's the next step? And so when I look back now, all of those times, it's like, as frustrating and as end of my career as it felt in those little moments, it's like, no, it's okay. There's going to be something else.
I kind of do that if major disappointments for things that I've wanted really, really badly, but I'm maybe a tiny bit less mature in my response. I go, okay, I'm going to get something way better.
Well, it turns out that's exactly what happens. Like the grad school thing, I actually ended up being in this training program at Oxford that I did instead. I was like, you know what? I didn't get it in, but let me do this summer program at Oxford with the British American Drama
Academy. It always does end up way better. The path you end up on always does, but it's when you're in the disappointment, it doesn't feel like that.
Totally. Yeah.
Like so that guy you don't get, and then you like meet him when he's like middle-aged.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
I met my husband right after letting go of the most dramatic like desire for this other person, and it's never going to be anything.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And then they're on your Facebook page and you find out that you're completely opposite people, and it was probably for the best.
Yes. 100%.
Okay. So you're out of college, you've accomplished a lot. Now you've proven your mettle to yourself. You've got your confidence. You're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Did you become a working actor?
Yeah.
Just immediately?
Yes, because even though they weren't really teaching a lot of business in my college program, I went to the bookstore and bought all of the books that were like how to be a working actor. I read it. I researched like the summer stock opportunities, and I was like, all right, you send postcards. Okay, cool. And I remember I really started coaching people then, because I had my classmates who were like, why are you doing that? They're not even teaching us that. You're not even in the acting program. How are you doing? I'm like, I'm just reading this book. That's what they say to do. Like, I want to go there. You know what I mean? So I decided, I was like, I'm either going to go to grad school or I'm going to go on a national tour. And I put it out there. I manifested it, and I didn't get into grad school, and I went on a national tour, and it was with Missoula Children's Theater. So it was a very unexpected national tour. It wasn't necessarily like Broadway Les Mis national tour, but this job, it was acting and teaching. It was acting and directing.
I started in children's theater, and there's something special because not only that, but your audience,
they teach you, they tell you everything. Like it's a really good training ground, actually.
The wonder in their eyes as well. I mean, it's just something really special about that. That's a great first major job.
Yeah. So, and that job took me to, was really special about it is they hired probably 50 or 60 actors right out of college. And they train you to direct a 1-hour musical with like 50 to 60 kids in any town, USA. So they train you in Missoula, Montana, and then you take this truck, this Ford Ranger with oversized topper, the lights, camera, costumes and then you end up in a town anywhere from like, my first town was like Milton, North Dakota, population 40.
That's so cool. It's like a movie. It reminds me.
It was.
So were you like, I'm living the dream, like best friends with your castmates and like, I'm living the dream?
No, because my first tour partner was the most challenging person I've ever met in my life. And so again, like the universe finds ways to throw challenges at me.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was the only person in the company that didn't have the social skills to really want to meet a lot of people. And the job was all about meeting a lot of people. So there was friction from the beginning.
I just want to act.
I don't remember. And I'm glad I don't remember all. It was more of like you needed 500% energy for this job, because basically you taught 50 to 60 kids a 1-hour musical in 5 days. So the level of just like, it's like a ridiculous amount of skill that you need to do it. And for whatever reason, it was tricky. So I actually had 3 different tour partners. The second tour partner, actually, we had an amazing time. We toured for 9 months, and his name is Nick Robideau, and you may know him from Recorded Books.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful.
So he was my tour partner.
Came close and everything.
So Nick and I were in the Pacific Northwest together for 9 months, from like Mormon towns in Idaho to just outside of Seattle together, and Yellowstone.
Did you go to diners? Do they really have like small town American diners like I imagine, with like real American food and French fries. Yeah, I've been out of the country for a long time.
Um,
Humor me.
I will say yes. And it was the time, it was
People
like
were
mid
nice and
2000s.
friendly and
So a lot of things had already, as I said, like that first town I went to was already emptied. We put on this children's show, but it was all of the grandkids who came in to vacation with their grandparents because really no one was living in this town anymore.
really.
Yeah, we spent weeks on reservations, Air Force bases. So I got to see parts of the country that I never would have otherwise.
Yeah.
And I was like, it changed me. It was just you got changed. It's like doing. They called it Washington Post called the group the Peace Corps of theater, because you were in times just being of service, bringing arts to places that didn't have arts programs.
Yeah.
And so we were changed probably more than the kids were. But I think the Air Force base thing was interesting because Missoula Children's Theater goes to every Air Force base, every US Air Force base in the world. So some of these kids who moved around all of the time had the consistency of whether they were stationed in Italy or Japan or Missouri. They knew they were going to get to be in a Missoula Children's Theater play.
But what you just brought to mind when you just said that, and I know you're being generous in it, and it is partly true, but when you said we were changed probably more than the kids were, it brings me back to two things. It brings me back to what we said at the beginning of the call about that person that said could say the one thing to a child that like sticks with you and then you spend your whole life trying to overcome. And also what Scott Brick said when he was on the call. He had a teacher that believed in him and showed him acting, like went out of his way to convince his parents to let him go on a school field trip to go and see, and it changed his life forever. It changed everything. And it was the one person saying the one thing at the right time. And it's very moving. So but what I'm saying is all those children that you had contact with, I think the odds of one of their lives being inexplicably changed forever because they came in contact with someone that taught them something outside their normal daily lives is like, and most likely way more than one. So in like 15 years, 10 years, I don't know how fast kids grow these days, but oh my God, I sound like someone's grandmother. But like in 5 years or so, they grow pretty fast, don't they? Because like from when you saw them. So like 5 years time, you're going to turn around and they're going to be signing up for your audiobook course. Do you know what I mean? Embarking on their career as actors because that one teacher visited their small town. I think it's amazing. I think the people we touch, we don't you know who you touch when you're coaching. You know you've changed the lives of many narrators and actors, but those children's lives, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're traveling around, heavy duty acting. At what point did you ever go, okay, I'm acting, I'm making a living, and I'm fine? You fell madly in love, got married. Not that I'm skipping over the good part, but fell madly in love, got married, and you're acting, you're making a living. When did you think I'm going to start being an actual coach? Because you said that you'd been coaching your whole life pretty much anyway. It seems like something you naturally are born to do. When did it become a business? Or were you acting for a while exclusively before you started coaching? Or was it, oh, and guys, don't forget, I haven't forgotten, we will be taking a couple of quirky questions at the end. So if you've got any interesting quirky questions, throw them at us and I'll get them at the end. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think I resisted coaching. I resisted teaching. Even that national tour, I really was like, oh, it's not exactly what I want because my family, I come from teachers. I come from educators. Both of my parents met from being in music education together. And I didn't want to say yes to it. I was like, because at that time in the industry, and I'm glad things are changing now. And I want to be a part of shifting the old paradigm or the old belief that if you're a coach, it means that you're not great at the thing. I completely disagree with that. But at the time,
those who can't teach, which is, my mother was a teacher too. It's like, really?
Yeah. So at the time I was like, oh, but I need to prove myself as an actor or whatever. But along the way, I did always do teaching things. So when I lived in Washington, D.C. for a while, and I got to do some really cool teaching artist work with the Washington National Opera.
Wow.
There were hints of teaching artist work that kind of went my way when I lived in DC, New York, in Rhode Island. And every time I did it, I was like, yeah, I'm good at this. I like it. I like it. However, I still want to do the acting. It was always like, yes, and the moment for me was in 2016. I had been teaching private lessons, private singing. So I would teach singing, trombone, and cello. I taught private lessons on each of those three instruments that
I
I
love that.
am. Those are my instruments.
I love that.
And because I had ended up, yeah. So anyway, that would be my side job between theater gigs. So I was fortunate to like really have some nice juicy theater work come my way, but it never paid the bills, which is eventually why I went into narrating.
Yeah.
But 2016, I was in a production of Avenue Q, which I've done so many productions of Avenue Q, like I've puppet coached or I've been in it. And I ended up in this production where I was both playing the Bad Idea Bear, Mrs. T track, and I was puppet coaching it at the same time. And there was something so electrical in me about doing both, because the puppeteer track that I did already was running around doing all of the different things. And that's just the theme in my life. I get bored easily if I'm just doing one thing.
Yeah.
So already that track is a lot. And now I'm like, oh, and now I get to coach and help everyone else look as good as possible as well. And it was that production that I was like, oh, I need to always do this. I need to always be feeding my coaching educator brain, leader brain, as well as my actor brain.
And
so that was like
what they say, they say that the way to master an art is to teach it. That's what I've always heard. So because you see it, and Sean Pratt, it says in his experience, and I mean, if anyone would know, Sean Pratt would know, it's definitely that way, because every single time you're teaching so I think the road goes to, you know how there's conscious, unconscious learning, like you drive a car and you're very aware, and then you stop being aware, because then you're doing it and you do it without even realizing it. So with any skill, especially craft, you're learning, you don't realize it's very, very hard. Then you start doing it unconsciously. But then most of us, we get to that unconscious point and we glide. And in acting and narrating, that's the kiss of death, because you don't have that connection, because you're gliding, and then if you're teaching, you're pulling yourself out of your comfort zone, and it continuously happens, because you have to grow in order to help your students grow. So the act of you teaching is refining your craft, and that's how you become a master.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
and
it was that
have
year.
The skill. You obviously have it in your blood. So that year, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, so that year I actually had another contract at another theater, and I wasn't involved in the artistic side. I was like in the ensemble. I didn't have so much to do. And I was like, inside I was dead. I was like, oh, this is such a drain compared to that last contract. So it was just like so obvious to me. All right, given this is a part of you, like, what if you actually leaned in? And the result of that is The Global Actor, The Great Audiobook Adventure. And today it's like so much a part of me that I can't imagine why I would say no for so many years. So
can you tell me the difference between The Global Actor and The Great Audiobook Adventure?
Yeah, for sure. So The Global Actor is my coaching company. So in 2016, 2017, I had been teaching voice for a while, but I moved into career coaching at that time. So because I had found narration, the main things I was coaching people on were goal setting, action planning, finding representation, and exploring audiobook narration, because I had found like, oh my gosh, every actor needs to know about this. This is such a great fit for so many people. And I was working a lot in theater, and especially the skill set from theater really crosses over nicely. So whenever I was doing a show, I was starting to tell people about my coaching and inviting them into my power groups. And I do a lot more group coaching than private coaching because for a number of reasons. At first, it was because I didn't want to spend too much time doing it because I wanted to make sure I could still do theater and big contracts. But then the awesome surprise is my clients do better in groups than one-on-one because you get so much more. You get questions answered you never thought you would.
Yeah.
And there's just the camaraderie of coming up together. So the Global Actor is my business. It's group coaching, it's courses. And then the Great Audiobook Adventure is my signature course inside the Global Actor.
Love the name. The name is just spectacular.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so how does the Great Audiobook Adventure work? Is it like a certain amount of time? Is it a curriculum?
Good question. Yeah. It's a curriculum that folks can join. Right now our enrollment's open. It's open for a few times in the year. And basically whenever you join, you get access to all of the video training and you get access to the most. I know other people think their Facebook groups are amazing, but the Audiobook Adventurers Facebook group community is amazing. There's not a lot of room for low grade unity in our communities. And by that, I mean, if you're not feeling good and you really want to vent, you better be prepared for people to pick you up because that's what we do.
Right. See, this is what I meant by cult. I meant it as a compliment.
But I mean it, there's just like, we're very high. We're very,
high energy,
action oriented. Do you know what I mean? Like if you want something great, let's make it happen. If this path isn't working for you, let's customize it for you. And so the course is the 10 chapters of training. And the main things I outline in that training are translating the craft of acting to that of audiobook narration. So if you're coming from the on-camera world or the theater world, how to really hone in your craft for audiobook narration specifically. Yeah. And also if you're not an actor, that's okay. You're welcome too. Let me give you some foundational craft to get started.
Yeah, then I move. If you're in theater, you don't need to scream to the back of the room when you're doing an audiobook.
Exactly. 100%. Let's keep it intimate.
Exactly.
Yeah. So like that whole, we translate the craft, help you build an affordable industry standard booth. I'm so honored and grateful to my partner, Justin Mara, who is our in-house studio engineer. And I couldn't do the course without him because he is my tech heavy person who is he's a tinkerer. So he's really interested in gear. He's really interested in finding how things work, how we can do things in a better way. And we challenge each other in that way.
Partner, is that your partner?
Yeah.
Partner?
Yeah, he's my husband. Yeah.
I married a painter and I still cannot get my living room painted. You're very, very lucky. I'm telling you. And one of the quirky questions actually surrounds that. So we're going to hit you with that in a minute.
Okay,
so go ahead. But I want to hear the rest of the course first.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So once you've got your booth, once you've worked on the craft, then we move into the business, all the business. How do you book the job? Who do you need to know? How do you reach out? And what makes my course different than others I've seen out there is I focus on direct relationships with publishers immediately. I want you to get to the best paying work sooner than later so that you really don't just spend a lot of time doing things that are not in alignment with what you want.
But then how does that, because they say that people should earn their keep and have a certain amount of books before they start approaching publishers. Are you just saying have them approach publishers? I've got 2 books. I
disagree with that. Yeah,
I mean, I have no opinion.
Yeah, no, I disagree. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I disagree with that thought that says you have to wait in line. We come from like our culture has enough lines for enough people. This is where I'm like, let's break down the patriarchy, whether that sits with you or not. But there's so much. We don't live in a fair world.
Yeah.
So let's just like question why things exist and see if it's true. Okay. So I've never worked on ACX. My first job was directly with a publisher. So that's what I knew. So I
Right.
didn't. So when I've met people who are saying that, I'm like, but why? But why? So I'm always like, but why? I'm
So
not going to say
joining it,
that.
did you just send a letter to a publisher and say, hi, I'm an actress and I want to be an
No, it was more
audiobook
than that.
narrator?
It was more than that. No, it's everything I teach in the
Yeah,
course.
and I'm not going to ask you to give away
Yeah.
trade secrets either. So
Yeah, no, it's more than that. But it's all about building relationships. And so it's getting your marketing materials as amazing as possible. So I wouldn't say reach out without having like awesome materials. And so I have like 2 specific marketing materials that I really help folks hone in on so that they can get the work they want right away. And that's another thing. I just don't think people should spend too much time living in genres that are unfulfilling and draining. So again, the lessons I've learned, I try to help people skip some of the junk that I had to go through.
yeah, because when you finally get to that point, you're like, oh God, really? Why did it take me so long to figure this out? It's like, I'm busy enough. I don't need to do that one genre that I detest and find myself, you know what I mean? I can say no. It is an option.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
never occurs to you when you're new.
Totally. And the thing about me that and I've got like such a positive outlook. I want folks who don't know me, if this is your first time hearing me, I'm very much a dream big person, but I'm also all about being really practical as well. So I really check in with my students if they're starting their outreaches and they check in with me and their things are not right where they need to be yet. We need to have that conversation because you never get to redo a first impression. So a lot of it is around that, making sure the first impression you make is as good as possible, but knowing it's just the beginning of a relationship and you get to keep building that.
Except there are a few people that I'm kind of hoping have forgotten about me. So I can like start
over.
Yeah,
and then the first that first impression goes away too. Absolutely.
Okay, I've got some quirky questions. From Lauren, I think that was Lauren. Yeah. What was your favorite role ever played? And what is your dream role, including co-stars?
What was the last part of it? My best role ever played?
Favorite role you've ever played and your dream role, including who would be your co-stars in your dream role.
Okay. My favorite role I've ever played. My favorite audiobook narration, I will share that one first. I really loved this book that I got to do called The Troubled Girls of Dragomir Academy, which was with Harper by Anne Ursu. And it was everything that the little girl in me needed to hear at 12 years old. It's about a world of magic and the girls have magic, but they don't know it. And they're never allowed to be educated in it. I won't say more than that, but it's very magical and really beautiful. So it spoke to me the whole time. And it was I
love that because when I was young and I recently, not sure how this is going to go, but when I was young, I wanted to do magic so badly. There was a book called Jennifer Hecate Macbeth, William McKinley and I was like obsessed with it. Like the girl meets a best friend and she's like a witch. And I wanted to do that so badly. And so recently I found this amazing website and this coaching is like, I'm not going to say the name, obviously. And you can, do this. And it's a quirky way of like looking at the universe. And a fluke, I dumped quite a long subscription that you can't get out of on it. And but they're like actual people that do the actual stuff. Like we're talking Hermetic history, which is fascinating, but it's like a tiny bit scary as well. I mean, we're not just talking robes and burning candles here. We're talking like massive, but I've spent the money. So who knows what I'll be at by the end of the year. So go ahead. Best book. I digressed. So dream role, including co-stars. And it can be an audiobook. I like audiobooks too. So that's my love language.
My dream role is on a show that might not exist yet. I'm really interested in the kinds of stories I like to tell are about empowering voices that haven't been in places of being heard and found family, which to me means like folks who find each other and become like that empowered, supportive family.
Oh,
yeah.
Like your roommate family. And
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's a show like, I don't know what genre it lives in yet, but some shows that are sticking with me now are like, I liked the first season or two of Westworld. It gets a little bit, I don't love the most recent one, but Westworld, I love the folks who like band together and try to get out of something together. Same thing with Handmaid's Tale. It's like banding together and getting out of this thing. So
What
that's
about
like,
writing it yourself?
yeah, I love this. Actually, I just wore this yesterday, this hat.
Because I don't think you get, yeah, I don't
I'm
believe
actually
you get
working on
ideas
becoming
like
a
that,
writer this year.
right?
Yeah.
Because
So I
I mean,
actually just
it comes
wrote.
for a reason, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm at the beginning stages of writing a web series. I'm not sure exactly. Like I wrote the pilot of an episode last year. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with it yet, but I'm very at this point I realize I think I need to create some things for myself because for so many years I didn't think I had a voice. But now looking back and having these kinds of conversations, it's like, oh no, there are certain themes that
But
matter to
I
me.
saw it when you were talking, because I'm telling you, and I'm never wrong. It's when somebody starts talking about an idea and you
Yeah.
can see the bubble above their head.
Oh, cool.
And I saw the bubble. Like, next step, she writes the after story. Well, I have this idea. That's the kind of idea it is. And you can recognize those ideas. The idea that when you tell it to us and we're sitting here going, oh, of course, hasn't that already been done? I'm sure is very familiar. It's because it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So you've got no choice now. You've announced it to 42 people.
Oh, goodness.
So
I'm here
pretty
for
much,
it. I do hard things. Okay. I'm
I love
there.
that. I'm very excited to hear about that. We'll have you back on the show and you'll talk about all your new writing. Okay, so next quirky question from Jennifer. How did you meet your husband, Justin? And were you a narrator and he an engineer at the time? And did he master your audio when you were dating? And so, like, I really want to get into I want to know, was it like eyes meeting across a crowded room? Did you hate each other's guts and think he was cheeky and slap him? Can you tell we've all done those romances? Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Great question, Jennifer. Okay. I had just I was in the middle of like my grad school thing and I had just gotten back from Oxford. So I had just had a massive discovery at that Oxford retreat. I realized, you know what, I'm not going to do grad school. The directors, the teachers I worked with were like, hey, you know what, just go act. Like you just need directors who like you. You're going to get an agent. You're going to work. Stop, let it go. And so the first audition I went to was this. I got cast in this first production of Avenue Q that I ever did. And that led to just a very successful next 7 or 8 years in regional theater. And I met him right at that moment. It was right as I got back around the time of that audition, around the time of that booking. I was working as a teaching artist. So I was directing a production at this charter school in Rhode Island. So I had grown up in Rhode Island and never planned to stay in Rhode Island. I was like, I'm going to come back, pay some bills, audition for grad school, and then I'm going to move back to New York. And we met. He's a history teacher at this charter school, and they hired just artists. So all of their like math teachers, science teachers, everyone had some form of art that they were also pursuing as well as being teachers. And so he's a singer-songwriter. And so he was performing a lot during those times. So we met at these daily meetings, and this school, Justin and I both have.
Wait, you're missing.
Yeah.
So did you fancy him? Were you like, oh my gosh, I really like him? Or were you like,
So when I met him, I was like, we met over like both being really high, wanting to solve a lot of problems that existed in the program. And so we were super passionate about making like the school a better place and like helping the kids more. So yeah, there was something in him that was different than what I was looking for in other people. It was like, I had finally realized like, oh, it's not just about whatever thing I used to think. It was like, oh, I want someone who's passionate. And so he was passionate about the same stuff I was passionate about. when kids got in trouble in my class, I was like, what do we do? Because the school didn't really have any kind of program with like, what happens if a kid is whatever. He's like, oh, you can just give them detention. He would help me like be good at handling myself at this institution that needed
so
some
you
work.
guys were kind of like working together, but we want the Monica Chandler moment. We want the at what point was it like who said something first?
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. Justin's gonna kill me if I give you that many details. No, I'm just kidding.
Indiscreet.
No, I'm just kidding. It was like it was back and forth. Like, hey, would you maybe want to do? We would go back and forth, like talking about work stuff. So it was very professional, but it was like, hey, how are you? He would tell me something about something he was doing, and we would be in touch via email outside of school. And it was always school related. And then I think he was like, maybe we could take this offline sometime. There's a coffee shop down the street from the school.
Oh, guys.
Yeah.
Not to generalize or anything.
It was wonderful. And so then it led to like coffee dates and and then our first date was we went to, I think the first date was this going out and actually our real first date. We went for drinks at this really cool artist place, but then it ended up being closed. So we went to this restaurant down the street and we had a couple of glasses of wine together and an appetizer. And then Justin kept telling me about this thing called geocaching. And I was like, what is that? What's geocaching? And it's like a scavenger hunt that you can do anywhere in the world. And so he's like, oh, do you want me to show you? Actually, right now, there are some geocaches around us. So we left the restaurant and did some like scavenger hunt, and it was raining. And then he walked me to my car, and my car had been broken into. Someone had like punched in the window of my car.
That's a Monica Chandler moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he went and helped me. Like, I think he went to go get a garbage bag from like a gas station down the way. And like, he helped me like be okay driving with it. And he's such a gentleman. So that was just a hug. Oh, so he considers our next date the real one, which is, I had just gotten back from New Year's in New York. I was working with my voice coach, Tom Jones. We had just done a private session, and I was like, oh, I'm having like a second date with this guy. And he was like, oh, I have a feeling this is the one, just the way I was talking about it. Yeah, exactly. It must have, he sees it. Yeah. Everything I'm thinking, I guess, shows on my face.
I love that though. I love that. Yeah. I love, because these are the stories
I have to tell you what,
oh no, does it get better? It gets more romantic?
This date was, we went to the Muppet movie together. The Muppets, the newer movie had just come out, and we both are big Muppet fans. So that was amazing. And then we went ice skating, like in the Providence has like a skating rink.
That's a proper date.
Yeah. And then we went to dinner after.
Did he plan the whole thing? Or did you plan it? Who planned that one?
I don't remember, but yeah, it was pretty special.
It's very romantic.
Very romantic.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's really nice. Oh, that's lovely. I needed a little romance. So much better than a lot of the books. They skip the fun, quirky meeting part and they go straight to the he said, she said part. Okay, we've got so many quirky questions. Guys, we've got so many quirky questions. We're not going to have time for all of them, but I'm going to print the chat box. So if it's okay with you, Elise, you can like, okay, Joel wants to know, if you couldn't be an actor, what would you do with your time? No limit on resources or training. What would Elise be doing?
What I'm doing with the Global Actor. So I would have, and this is something that I might still want to do, like have a show of some kind, like a show where I help people. So like a talk show. I don't know. Again, it might be something that doesn't exist yet, the style that it would be. Yeah. I love Oprah. So like if it could be something at like her level, like, something like that. Like an entrepreneur that is like, and you get a car and you get a car.
Yeah. You've got more energy than Oprah though. You've got like a high vibe going, which is good.
I'm not going to be her, but like, I love how she is like, not only her show turned into just like media mogul and
Yeah,
in such a positive way.
No, I think you'd be brilliant. I think you could outdo it. Okay, Barbara, you have one album to listen to for the rest of your life. What is it?
Ah, um, album. I was actually prepared with the song thing. Okay. Oh, I know. Worthy by India Ari.
Worthy. I've never heard that. I'll have to check that out. Okay.
Very good. It's every artist needs to give it a listen. Yeah.
And also, what's a topic you wish you knew more about?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. Because I feel
I'm going to skip to the next one.
Okay.
I'm going to let you think about that one because this is too good to skip.
Okay.
If Tina.
Bring it, Tina.
If you could ask your dog Ampersand only one question that he would answer in English, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. What are your 3 favorite things to do, and what's something you'd like me to improve on?
And knowing dogs, he probably kind of tells you those things already, doesn't he?
Probably.
Okay, we've got more. That was a good one. I like that one. Be brave and things scrappy. Justin is a sweetie. Who said that? Oh, Danielle said that. I approached Jennifer says she approached publishers with no books. Yeah, see, I wish in the beginning, I was very much a follow the rule girl. I thought that there were rules that you followed, and then you cracked those rules, and then you succeeded. And so I waited and waited and waited until I had the amount of books that you were supposed to have to approach the publishers. And I kept getting more books and more books and more books. And I think it was around like 150 books when I started. Then I started sending messages to publishers, and then I started watching them on podcasts, and every single one of them would go, "We love new voices." And I cannot lie that I'm not going to say I was bitter. It was like, you didn't love new voices 6 years ago. Where were you when I had like 3 books?
I wish I had met you then, Daniela. Because like everyone I meet,
But it reminds me of Johnny Heller, because I had that talk with Johnny Heller yesterday, and I always love that about him, because he got me a couple of jobs, because on his interview, it was like, oh, I'm trying to follow these rules. Every time I send these letters, somebody tells me they want the opposite. And he said, are you really that, like, what's the word, submissive or something, that you just like follow everything, and I was like, oh, that's right. And the next messages I sent out that week were like, by the way, I've done this and this, hope you're doing well, ciao. And I got a book from it.
Oh my gosh,
I've been following the rules for 5 years. So
you have to question why rules are in place. Who put the rules there, and why, and do they still need to be there, and do those rules apply to you? And
they always work for other people. And it was like speed dating. I tried so hard to be like the people that studied and did a really good job, but I'm not that person. I'm the girl that rocks up at class, sits in the back, winks at the teacher, and then passes the test. I've never pretended I was the other girl, but I made the mistake of trying to follow the rules. So I sat there frozen like a deer in the headlight with a script at speed dating, trying really hard to sell my message the way you're supposed to. And it's becoming like a theme. And that's why I find it very, very refreshing, the message that you're giving, because I mean, don't be stupid, obviously. You do some work and research and figure it out, but think for yourself.
And your personality is you're so good at meeting new people and being who you are, Daniela. So like anytime you do that again, bring more of who you are. Like the way you talk here, we've never really spent more than 5 minutes before. And I feel so comfortable and at home with you because you're so good at taking care of people. So like taking care of is a superpower that you have, you can bring to future meetings.
Thank you very much. I love that. Yep. Thank you very much. I'm doing this new thing where I'm not being self-deprecatory. You know,
Yes,
this is my first
we
day.
have a clubhouse room in our global actor lounge. One week we were talking about receiving, and so when we would give each other compliments, we're like, "I received that. I received that," even if that's hard to do.
This is my first
I'm working
day
on
doing
receiving
it because my first response was, "Oh no, really? Not every, of course."
Yes,
not. It's the
and
people.
yes, more, please.
So I'm doing it. You see the smile on my face. Yes, thank you. I'm practicing. Since I joined, okay, wait a second. Question. If you could tell your younger self, from Marissa, if you could tell your younger self one thing about how to be confident now, what would it be? You sounded pretty confident when you were young, though.
I would say, my younger self needed to hear, "You got this, girl. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. No matter how long it takes, you're going to get there."
Okay, here's one. Where did rose, thorn, and unicorn come from?
Oh, that's a good question. That actually came. Yeah. So we talk about rose, thorn, and unicorn in our celebration rooms in the clubhouse on Friday nights. And rose, thorn, and unicorn actually came to me in a therapy session. So I was talking with my therapist about things like, as I'm growing as a leader, different challenges come up, and just always figuring out, what to lead with in every session that I'm in, whether I'm hanging out with friends, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm working with my leadership team, whatever. And she was like, "Hey, have you ever tried rose, thorn, and unicorn at the beginning of a meeting?" And I was like, "What's that?" And so she told me about it. So it actually came out of a therapy session that I had. I'm really a big proponent of taking care of your mental health. And that was something that for so long, I thought therapy was like just something that's for other people. And I think therapy is for everyone. So I want to just really, kind of shout out my therapist.
But what is rose, thorn, and unicorn?
Yeah. And it's actually, I think it actually comes from what's like the education style for 3 to 5-year-olds at like a preschool. If anybody knows Montessori.
Yeah.
It's actually, I think it comes from Montessori. So a rose is something that's going well for you. A thorn is something that's challenging you at the time. And a unicorn is something that has surprised you. So that's what we typically do in our celebration rooms. We used to just share wins, but then we're like, well, what if someone doesn't feel they have anything to share? Let's dig for something that could be a rose. And what is challenging you?
Reminding yourself,
what is surprising you?
Because I'm used to manage a team of like 18 people. I can't remember how many at this point. And it was very fraught because it was a large corporate company, legal department, and basically the company kept taking things away from them and the work was deteriorating. So it was like my job was spending all my time fighting to get them things, then having to be the messenger to tell them when they don't get anything. And when it turns and you're the one that they blame. So every meeting I would go into was going to be me delivering very bad news, no matter what. And for years. So what I would do before I went into every meeting was literally, until the very end, I kind of just started working from home because I couldn't do it anymore. But I would remind myself of something I really liked about the person. I would search for something, even if it was, "Oh my God, I love the shoes she's wearing today." But it was usually, she has rabbits and she's kind to animals. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going into the room on their side as their friend, even though I know I'm going to be attacked. And that's, I think, what you're doing with the rose, thorn, and unicorn. And there was a diet coach that used to do this. It really annoyed me, but I think that was more her voice. But before every podcast, she would we're going to set an intention, right? And that's, I think, setting an intention, setting a tone, I'm literally out loud changing my mindset.
Yeah, I'm big on that. I don't do it every session, but often we do some centering at the beginning to leave stuff out of there and be ready to grow.
Yeah. And it's so It's so helpful, isn't it? Because you know
Mhm.
those things, but if you get yourself in an emotional state, you forget
Mhm. Yeah.
who you want to show up as.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
the stress, anxiety, you've got to manage. We got to
Yeah.
manage it. It's going to come up, but what do you do with
I
it?
mean,
Yeah.
even good states, excitement, happiness. I mean,
Hmm.
as I said in my email, I am a 10-year-old on a sugar high climbing up the walls. I'm like an all-night slumber party at APAC.
I love
Excitement,
it.
happiness,
Yeah.
a calming intention. Do you know what I mean? You're going to go into an
Yes.
audition, a confident intention. Remind
Hmm.
yourself you like the casting director, that, you've got this, and Michael Kostroff said this. He said, every audition he looks forward to because it's a chance to do what he loves.
Yeah. I love
So
that.
it's like an honor getting to do the audition. I mean, he says in a
And
very,
it really is. It
it
really
is.
is an honor. They've looked at so many people for you to be chosen for that.
Yeah. And his quote is, "You're not going to get the la 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 job." I'm not going to quote it on
Hmm.
here, but yeah. And if you just go in there, because acting, it's different. Narrating, we have so many more opportunities, but acting, it's like you could audition forever. You might not get it. It's nothing about you. But if you learn to love the audition, then you always win, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I love your energy, and I see why people are madly in love with you. And I
Thank you.
admire the fact that I admire your irreverence.
Thank
That's
you. That's so interesting hearing you say that word specifically, because when I met Justin, that's how I feel like he said that about himself. And I was like, I've never heard that word. Like, what is that? What is that word? I don't know if I like that. But I did it. It's taken me so long to realize that I am a disruptor.
yeah,
It's taken me a while because that's not how I lead necessarily. It's just kind of how I'm just like, what can we do here? And
yeah.
I did that in college. I did that. There are times in my life where I'm like, oh no, I asked why something was like that. And we did change it. And so I'm all about what's happening in the world right now, where we have the opportunity to build a new thing. And I feel like that's what we're doing in my community. And that's what I'm always curious to find out who's there for questioning what is and making sure it's the best way. And if it's not, what else can we do? Because I don't have all the answers.
But your
You
approach,
have the answers. You have the answers. You have the answers.
you remind me of Jennifer Aquino, if I'm honest. The thing that you two have in common and that I very, very much admire, and I think you're the only two I've ever met that have this, is there isn't anything else. You're kind of unapologetically show up as you.
Mm,
And everyone else has these gradations, these stories you tell yourself, and this, including myself.
mm.
And I can be me one day, but I might not be so much me in an hour. And I've got the weight of it. So there's what they're saying to you, and then there's what they're really thinking, and then there's what their subconscious is telling them. But you
Mhm.
and Jennifer are just kind of like, nope, this is what I think. I'm saying it. and,
I
and I
take that as a
admire the
compliment.
hell out of that.
I love Jennifer, and I've learned so much from Jennifer. Jennifer is one of my clients and one of our community mentors. And I'm so thankful for Jennifer. Jennifer, I see you right now, and I'm so grateful because I feel like the universe brought us together in this beautiful way to get better at that thing. Because when we started our celebration room, guess what? We are announcing to the world every day what we're proud of. That's a practice. We've been doing it for probably over a year now. So every week we get to practice being proud of who we are. And that's not what we were necessarily all raised to believe. So if anybody wants to start celebrating themselves more, come join us. That's my
Well,
invite to celebrate, just to celebrate with us.
one last question. Oh, actually, I have two last
Yeah.
questions. Then I'll let you off the hook.
Oh, no
Barbara
worries.
wants to know, do you host any other clubhouse rooms ever?
Currently I'm just hosting that room. Actually, no, once a quarter we're doing narrator and author celebrations. So we did a Filipino heritage celebration last fall. We just did a Valentine's Day one in February. We'll probably do one once a quarter for different themes. Currently, that's the only room I do, but I mean, I'm open to hosting others or being a part of others, but that's kind of all I can be consistent with right now with my schedule.
Okay, I'm going to hit you with the last question.
Sure.
If for the people that are going to be watching this in 60 years time, what final words of wisdom or thought or energy would you like to leave them with if they take nothing else away from this phone call, except they will remember the dog bit, because that's like too memorable, and the second date's pretty good too. But what would you like to leave them with?
Your voice is power. You see the world in a completely different way than anyone else. Show up, allow yourself to be seen, and you might just surprise yourself.
Very good. I love that. I love that. I'm sensing a tagline there. I like that.
I don't know if that was too many inspirational phrases altogether.
No, you can never have
to
too
me right
many
now.
inspirational phrases. They're like coffee memes. There's no such thing as too many.
Yeah, but that's like my main thought is I think we're waiting for someone to give us permission, and we have to give ourselves permission.
Yeah, I was waiting for years for the publisher badge, for them to call you into HR and say you're a publisher narrator now and give you the badge. And you never get a badge. You just
you didn't get one?
No, you do. No,
I don't have one either. I don't have one either.
And the funny thing is, for a split second when you said that, I thought,
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have one made and send it to you, Daniela. Yeah, it does.
Every job counts. Yeah. Thank you, Elise. This has been a pure joy and an injection of energy that I can think we all needed after APAC. We're all awake now. And you guys check out, I'll put the links to Elise's courses and her website in the About section when this comes out on video. And I'll send Elise the chat message as well. So she'll be able to say all the lovely things you guys have said about her. And thank you so much. And thank you to the studio audience. Mwah!
Yes, thank you, everyone. It's so good to see everyone.
It's been a joy. Thanks, Elise. Bye.
Thanks, Daniela.
Bye.
Bye.